Here we are in the Upper Mamoni Preserve, and it is a strategic spot, a strategic part of the total forest that remains between almost the canal itself and the Colombian border. Between Chagres National Park and the Colombian border, Panama has more than 1,600,000 contiguous hectares of mostly primary forest. It's the largest stretch of connected habitat, the largest remaining stretch of the famous Jaguar Trail that exists in the entire Chocó-Darien ecoregion, and it's the best chance that the Chocó-Darien ecoregion has of preserving the landscape level processes, natural processes that ensure that biodiversity, the richness of species of plants and animals, endures for the next several centuries. This stretch of forest has a bottleneck. The bottleneck begins in the coast of San Blas and ends right here in the Continental Divide. It's a narrow stretch that, if cut, would split the total forest in two, thereby diminishing its value for biodiversity conservation for generations to come. It is here where the Mamoni Reserve serves its purpose. It strengthens this spot, this weak link in the total ecosystem, by preserving the remaining unprotected forests along the boundary with San Blas. And it's a commendable effort because the large-scale processes, such as the migration of jaguar, the movements of jaguar looking for different sources of food, the movements of white-lipped peccary, can go on in this humongous forest for generations to come, thanks to the large expanse of habitat. The Chocó-Darien ecoregion is the 13th most important hotspot in the world for biodiversity, and that means that conservation efforts here strengthen one of the globally critical areas for biodiversity conservation. Equally as important is the fact that the Chocó-Darien ecoregion is being cut elsewhere, it's being deforested elsewhere in Colombia and Ecuador at such an alarming rate that efforts there have a very limited chance of succeeding in the long term, except in small preserves that will only protect a few species. Only here will we manage, or we have a fair chance of managing, to protect an entire Noah's Ark of the whole component of species. They can continue to thrive because there's enough habitat to ensure that all of the natural processes that have been here for eons continue to be here. We walk along the region that the Mamoni Preserve aims to protect. It is hard not to notice the destruction that has already impacted the land. Deforestation for cattle ranching and other agricultural purposes that are ill-suited for such a rainy, poor soil region have been pushing up the mountains from the Pacific side of Panama all the way to the Continental Divide right here, where we are on. It is a very short-term activity. It is an activity that is only profitable as a rampaging of the land, as a mining of the little soil fertility that exists. But once the rains come and the years pass, the fertility is gone and never comes back. It takes eons for that fertility to build up again. More sadly, the biodiversity is lost from the forest, and the forest itself is lost. So as we see the pattern of destruction really coming from the Pacific slope up gradually wetter and wetter mountains, the sadness and the tragedy of it all cannot be more pungent. The tragedy of this gradual but unstoppable deforestation that is threatening to cut off the forest really and split it in two less sizable chunks is what has brought the Mamoni Reserve people to this region of Panama to try to help that and to make sure that connectivity remains. It's not only a sizable protected area in its own right once it succeeds, but it will be a strategically located piece of forest that will help stop these sort of processes, stop this sort of destruction, and ensure that this vital corridor right here next to us of forest that stretches all the way from the Continental Divide to the ocean is not threatened, but rather remains healthy, remains viable, and remains a wildlife corridor that ensures that the biological processes continue for hundreds of years to come.